What's up, everybody? It's not every day you get to hang out with someone as awesome as Jason, and we have some really amazing stuff to talk about today. We've got OBJ, we've got Saquon, we've got Dynasty values. It's going to be a great show. Well, if you're a friend of the Player Profiler Network, you know Jason and his show, Wake and Take, which just ended here, about an hour and a half ago. Got off this morning. That's 5 days a week, guys. 8 a.m. my time, 10 p.m., 10 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you're tuning in, man. It's a fantastic show. Jason, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm on show number 2 of 4 today. So just ready to kick around, ready to talk about some football with you. Honored to be on here and thankful that you said I'm an awesome person at the opening of the show. That's awesome.
Well, hey, I speak truth here. I'm show number 1 of 3 today. So I've got Player Profiler today with Jack here a little bit later. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll tell you, one of the hardest things about being in this industry, Jason, is that I don't live on the East Coast and everything operates in East Coast time. So it's like I have to be mindful about taking my time and bumping it 2 hours to make sure that the majority of our listeners know where to go. It's an interesting thing, but you're fortunate you're on the East Coast, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's get into it here. Real quick, just want to pop. We've got Jamie in the chat. I never miss Wake and Take. It's better than ESPN. I could not agree more, man. ESPN in the morning is just it's crap television, guys. Let's be honest. There's a bunch of people yelling at each other about nothing, and they don't really touch on football this time of year. So if you're a football fan, why would you be watching anything other than Wake and Take? Just doesn't make sense to me. Now, let's get into our first question here. We alluded to it earlier. Odell Beckham Jr. signs with the Ravens. Does OBJ have any fantasy football value, in your opinion, Jason, in 2023?
Yeah, and I actually broke this down Wake and Take a couple days ago. And I went back to 2021 with the Baltimore Ravens, and I was just like, how did it look when they had 3 weapons in Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman, and Mark Andrews? Well, at the very least, I think that you can expect Odell Beckham to maybe slide into what Rashad Bateman got his rookie year, which is around 16% target share on the team. I think that could go up a tiny bit. And of course, Rashad Bateman has his injury issues, so if he ever gets hurt, then his value will skyrocket. At this point in time, though, I would say that Odell Beckham's value is probably not as high as his name value is, if that makes any sense.
Well, and yes, and that completely does make sense. I think people are pining for like 2018 Odell Beckham when he was in the top 5-10 wide receivers. He's 30 years old. He's had 2 ACL tears. Now he is in an air raid style offense now with Monken at the helm as the offensive coordinator. So things are changing there. It's not going to be this plodding, rushing, pounding offense where they keep the ball on the ground. But I have a hard time seeing him get the usage to be more than a wide receiver 3 or a flex this season. And that's going to be for I feel like personally some big like single game performances. I don't know that we're going to have the consistency out of OBJ for him to be someone I'll be willing to take in a draft because of his name recognition where he's going so early in drafts.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. I feel like he's exactly the type of player that's going to end up clogging your bench because you're never going to have the balls to start him. And then he's going to blow up on your bench a lot. And you're not going to want to get rid of him just because his name is Odell Beckham.
Right. So Jamie in the chat, after Jason's show the other day, I sold OBJ to the Ravens fan for the 206. And Jamie, I do believe that you had mentioned this on my other show last night. That's good value. And he has Jason to thank for it. So Jason, thank you for that. Thanks for helping our guy Jamie out. Now, another interesting situation that came up this week, Saquon Barkley says he's not signing his franchise tag. So the question here, is Saquon going to hold out for the entire season? Or are the Giants going to get some sort of long-term, maybe 2-3 year deal done to get Barkley back on the team, back on the field?
I think he'll hold out as long as it takes to get a deal signed. With the franchise tag worth about $10 million, he's the 8th highest paid running back. These other running backs kind of in his tier, like the Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cooks, Aaron Joneses of the world, they make about $12 to $13 million per year annual. So I think that he could get a contract like that, around $12 million a year, 2 to 3 seasons. I think that's what he's going to want. He can wait until week 10 to sign that franchise tag. And I mean, I think he could go as long as it takes to get it, but I think the Giants are smarter than that and they will end up signing him. It's not that much more than 10 million to go to 12 million.
And I agree. Now, let's say it doesn't get done though. Let's say they either trade him, which I think is the most unlikely scenario here, or he does hold out. My fear is that this is going to really hurt Daniel Jones to not have that elite running back behind him to take some of the pressure off. Does it shift the needle for you for Daniel Jones' fantasy value in Dynasty or otherwise?
I almost would argue I would go out to buy Daniel Jones a little bit more if there is no Saquon, because you're talking about a guy that's going to have to put the team on his back every single week. Yeah, he's going to lose or have a little bit more pressure on him because Saquon would be gone. But I mean, they're not just going to roll out Matt Breida. They would go find someone. Leonard Fournette, for example, is still available.
Sure.
So I do think that the offense would overall be fine. And I mean, Daniel Jones will just have to ball out. And at that point, it comes to the question of, do you believe in Daniel Jones or not?
See, and that's where I'm at, because I don't necessarily. Yeah. I think that he was propped up by having his first good season. Really, if you look at it in his career, was with Saquon Barkley healthy. If he has to put this team on his back, I mean, I could see there being a lot of rushing upside. He doesn't get enough credit as a rushing quarterback. But I'm afraid that that's too much pressure for the guy. Like, I'm afraid he'll crumble. And do you think the Giants are going to go out and get a receiver in the first round of the draft? Do you think that's something that they're targeting to try and get him some help? Or are they stuck with Waller, Parris Campbell, Wan'Dale Robinson and company?
I think they might be stuck with those guys, right? They could maybe get someone kind of towards the end of the draft. I don't see them using a first-round pick. Again, they saw what happened with Kadarius Toney, right? So
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. Well, a lot of these first-round guys don't. For me, character issues were kind of glaring when they drafted Kadarius Toney, and I thought it was interesting that he ended up going in the first round after the stuff that happened when he was at Florida. But I mean, I guess you never know. But if they do go back in, there are some decent wide receivers to be had in the back end of the draft. They won't be impactful. Now, this is a question for me here. What do you think of Parris Campbell in this offense? Because we saw him kind of break out and actually finally be healthy last season. Can he repeat that? And can he maybe even bump himself up to like a consistent wide receiver 2 in 2023 in this offense?
I don't think I'm confident enough to bump him up that high. I think where I would draw the line for Parris Campbell is he's probably going to be really good for DFS. I think he will definitely have some big games, but I do think he was brought in for a very specific role, and that role is to stretch the field, right? And they have all of the same wide receiver, basically, with Wan'Dale Robinson, with they brought in someone else too, but like Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson and Isaiah Hodgins, and they brought in another slot receiver. The name's skipping my mind right now, but these guys are all going to be operating over the middle of the field, short yardage. You're going to have Saquon Barkley out of the backfield. Every once in a while, there's going to be a broken play going to Parris Campbell. And I do think that presents lots of upside on a week-to-week basis. But again, I don't know if you'll ever reach the confidence to actually hit your lineup.
I want more from him. And I do think he's the wide receiver 1 in this offense right now, unless they do something before the draft, which I find to be pretty unlikely. But that consistency is a concern for me for sure. Now, speaking of consistency and things that have just shifted completely this offseason, who's the biggest riser in your mind in Dynasty rankings this offseason?
Yeah, I think I haven't really played around with my own rankings yet in this industry. I just caught up, last year was my first year and stuff, so now I'm doing shows and everything. But I do plan to work on some rankings. There is a player that I'm really high on for next season that has been rising on Dynasty rankings across the board, and that's Jameson Williams. I'm really, really excited for his season this year. Really nothing behind it, really. He's got a great profile. We haven't seen enough from him, but I love the Detroit Lions offense, and I think he plays a fantastic role, especially with DJ Chark now gone.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think it helps that we have ASRB there to ARSB there to be that elite wide receiver 1 and take the pressure off of Jameson Williams in his. This is essentially his rookie season,
right?
And what I really love about it is that that they drafted him knowing he wasn't going to play last season. This was a long-term bet on a guy who, had he not gotten hurt, probably would have gone much earlier in the draft and would have been unavailable to the Detroit Lions. I'm with you, man. I think that he is going to pop off pretty hard this season in Detroit. And by the end of the season, we might be talking about, is he a top 5 wide receiver heading into 2024 in Dynasty formats? And I think there's a possibility that he could be. The talent's there. And this Detroit offense, shout out Jack Kavanaugh, is going to be electric this season. For me, I'm going to stay in the same division, but it's DJ Moore. I think I see DJ Moore getting a lot more opportunity with a better quarterback. And you can say all you want about Justin Fields' accuracy, but he is an accurate quarterback when he has the time to throw. And he's in a more competent offense. I'm excited for DJ Moore. I think he's a guy who could sneak into that wide receiver 1 tier. Now that might be a little bit of a long shot, but it's far less of a long shot in 2023 for me than it would have been in 2022, or if he stayed in Carolina, because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be in Carolina, which is, I mean, who do you see? Who do you think they're going to take, Jason? Just throw it out there. Who are they going to take?
I think they should take Stroud, but I've seen recently that Young has been the new favorite to go number 1. But I mean, personally, I'm taking Stroud every day of the week. Coleridge Bernard.
Yes, that's awesome. What a fun name. We've heard some chatter about it maybe being Anthony Richardson, though that has sort of died down now. And then now another interesting story is we're hearing that the Texans might not go quarterback at 2.
Yeah.
Which does that mean Davis Mills, Jason? Is it Davis Mills rides again?
Oh man, I hope not. I think last year he burned a lot of us in the fantasy football community. A lot. I mean, he was the best rookie quarterback his rookie season, plain and simple. And so,
yes, easily.
And so we were all excited for him. We thought he was going to take huge leaps and bounds in year 2. He had he had great weapons, to be honest. Nico Collins, we were all super high on. Brandon Cooks, obviously. Brandon Cooks. So, I mean, we were all excited. I mean, dude completely flopped. He had a couple good games there towards the end of the year. But I don't think it's going to be him. I would almost rather bet on them being the team who takes the chance on Matt Ryan over rolling out Davis Mills again.
Oh, God. So you'll be happy to know I was with you on Davis Mills. He is still my most rostered quarterback in Dynasty. I've got him in 14 of my 20 Dynasty leagues right now.
Yeah.
So maybe not the best decision, but if they decide to start him, it's good for me, I guess, right?
Yeah. Hey, hindsight's 20/20, and I mean, it was a good process. It was a great process, to be honest.
It really was. So, and it was a team who believed in him too, and they went into the season saying, "This is our guy," and what we saw from him in 2022 would lead you to 2021 would lead you to believe he would have made a bigger step. Now, on the other side of this, who's your biggest faller in Dynasty right now?
Yeah, and this one's probably a hot take because I know everyone's like loving this free agency signing, but this is a guy I don't really like in general, and never really did, never rostered him. Always just puts his name just puts a stink in my mouth. I don't know why, but that's Miles Sanders. Last season, I think, is going to be the best year of his career, and I think that's fact. We saw that he only had 7.9 expected touchdowns, but scored 11 or 12. Obviously, some negative regression is going to come. He's on a much worse offense. Chuba Hubbard's still there. It's just he could get the volume, but I'm not going to take a chance on a running back 0.5, right? I mean, him and Chuba probably splitting stuff on an offense that's not going to score a lot of points, and that's going to be struggling a ton.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at with him as well. It kind of in the same category for me is DeAndre Swift. People think, well, no, this David Montgomery signing was good for him. It's good for him. It's not good for him. Look, Jamal Williams was a guy who had a completely different skill set. He was that pound the ball at the goal line type guy, and we saw him score a ridiculous amount of touchdowns. Now he's moved to New Orleans. They bring in David Montgomery, who is a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield. He's not necessarily that bruising back, though he can be more than DeAndre Swift. I just think all in general, this is telling me that the Lions don't necessarily believe that DeAndre Swift is a guy who can handle RB1 volume.
I think that's fair, but last season, you saw the Trade Gods episode. I'm still in on DeAndre Swift.
I know.
Last season, 36% opportunity share, still averaged 13 points per game. Fantastic. Do I think he's going to get more than 36% of opportunities? Yeah. Do I think he's going to break 50? Maybe not, but I don't think he has to. We just talked about how great this Detroit Lions offense is going to be next year. I want any piece of it. And for a guy that is now equal in value to David Montgomery, in some leagues, David Montgomery now more valuable to DeAndre Swift, I'm taking the guy with the better profile and the electric skill set.
Yeah. Now you were just talking about the opportunity share here, and a great place to be able to look at some of these numbers and compare these players is the player profiler data analysis. And it's been newly updated and it looks absolutely fantastic. And we're going to hear a little bit more from that from the Podfather.
All right, I want to take a moment today to talk to you about data analysis. The data analysis tool, we listen to the users. What do you want? What do you need? And we made it happen. We added popular reports like a fantasy scoring report, air yards report. And if you want to create a new report, but you don't necessarily want to look through every field, we have quick results. Hey, show me the most popular passing data. Show me the most popular rushing data, fantasy data. Done. And the thing just is much faster than it's ever been. And the report builder got a lot easier. I mean, check this out. We break it down into offense, defense. Show me just fantasy data elements. And then when you get results, hey, show me by draft year. Let's take a look at just certain players that played a certain number of snaps or a certain number of games last year. This is the tool that so many of you have been asking for, plus a bunch of dream features that Billy wanted and Cody wanted and I wanted and Dario wanted. So go to the fantasy tools section, click on data analysis, or go to playerprofiler.com/data-analysis.
I'm going to tell you, no joke, I use this data analysis tool every single day. I create probably 30 different reports on a daily basis. And if you want to get into that and you want to use it, you're going to need the all-in package. And you can sign up right now and get $10 off with the promo code NATE. It's a fantastic, there's a ton of, we got dynasty rankings, trade analyzers, so much stuff with the all-in package, guys. It's 100% worth it. Again, use the promo code NATE, get $10 off, and get so much better at fantasy football.
Yep.
Now, enough about that. Let's move on here because I've got an interesting question I want to pose to you. What's your prediction for the biggest day one draft surprise? Is it going to be a trade? Is it going to be a pick?
Yeah, I'm expecting lots of trades to happen, and I'm expecting lots of non-exclusive franchise tag offer sheets to be sent out, maybe not completely finalized, but I do think that we're going to start to see those Lamar Jackson offers come in, maybe some Saquon Barkley offers, all of that fun stuff. But I do think the most exciting trade possibility, and I love this move. There was a rumor about it the other day where the Raiders were inquiring about trading up for the number 3 overall pick and DeAndre Hopkins. And I think whatever team trying to trade up with the Cardinals to get number 3 and DeAndre Hopkins, if they're doing that to draft a quarterback, I can't think of a more logical move in the entire world of football to do. And I think that could happen where the Cardinals trade back and finally let go of DeAndre Hopkins. And it's easy to kind of mash the two together where they want a second round pick plus for DeAndre Hopkins. Well, they're going to get an early first, likely, maybe a second to move up to the first, and then they could just throw DeAndre Hopkins in there, maybe throw in like a 2024 pick or something. But I think that that's a kind of trade that's definitely possible.
Well, we've heard that the Raiders possibly want to move up. Now, that would be fascinating to have Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins in the same offense. Could you even imagine? I don't know that there's enough production to go around from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah. But then if they trade, so let's say the Raiders do make this trade up to 3. Mm-hmm. They get DeAndre Hopkins. They give up the 7th pick. Who are they taking with that pick? Is it Will Levis? Is it Anthony Richardson? Or I'm going to throw a hot one out here. Is it Hendon Hooker?
I think it would be Anthony Richardson because I do think that Josh McDaniels is fine with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm fine with Jimmy Garoppolo. And so you get the guy with tantalizing upside, you let him learn behind Jimmy Garoppolo, and you've got probably a better Trey Lance situation on your hands.
Yep, I agree with you. I love that. A better Trey Lance. All right, so I'm going to go to the chat here. Jamie wants to know, are you buying Parris Campbell right now in Dynasty?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to do it.
I would for the right price, but I think his price is a little too steep for me right now. And then here's a good question. Is a 3rd round pick good value for Campbell? I think that I'm okay with. If you need a wide receiver or let's say I am in a few Dynasty best ball leagues, I would definitely be targeting him for a 3rd round in a Dynasty best ball. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, I don't want to overpay for a guy who we don't know if he's even going to be able to stay on the field and stay healthy, which he hasn't. He's had 1 healthy season in his entire career. So, all right, so let's move on to our next one. Who is a player you see surprising everyone in redraft leagues in 2023? Who's that player that nobody's talking about that's just going to explode? And why is it Laviska Shenault? I'm kidding.
I'll stick in the division for you. I will.
All right.
And this is a bit of a homer take, and I'm pounding the table for this guy. It is Desmond Ridder.
Oh, yep. Okay. Care to explain? Because I personally don't sell me on Desmond Ridder here because I don't believe in the guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, and no one does. And I think that's why he's a sleeper. He's 100% going to be starting week 1. They're out on Lamar Jackson. They're out of all this stuff. They've brought in Taylor Heineke and have already come out and said he is 100% the backup and that they are rolling with Desmond Ridder. Arthur Blank said it. Terry Fontenot said it. Arthur Smith has said it. All of these guys have come out and talked about how much they believe in the guy. And he's got a great profile. Over his 4 games, starting as a rookie, he didn't turn the ball over a single time. How many times can you say that about a rookie quarterback? Never.
Never.
Right? So, never. And so I love that about him. The final game of the season, he threw for over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, had some rushing upside. It's going to be a good offense. He's got great weapons. I mean, even in that game with the 2 touchdowns, he didn't even have Kyle Pitts. It was just to Drake London. So to now add Kyle Pitts, to have Drake London, Mac Hollins is fine. There's rumors that they're looking at wide receivers in the draft. They've met with 8 wide receivers so far already. So I'm loving the team next year. I think they're going to end up winning the division. And I think a big part of that's going to be Desmond Ridder.
Okay. You've kind of sold me on him a little bit. I think that if he shows enough early, I'll start buying in.
Yeah.
My issue has just been, I didn't really believe in him coming out of college.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, he's got Drake London. He'll have Kyle Pitts healthy. They've done a lot in free agency. Their offensive line has gotten a ton better. So, Okay. All right, Jason. I think you've got me maybe like
dirt cheap, man.
Ridder.
Dirt cheap.
He is dirt cheap. My guy is Mike Gesicki.
Okay.
I think that this move to New England is huge for him. And we've seen how they use athletic tight ends in the past. And I think Bill Belichick's trying to get back to that kind of offense that they ran with Tom Brady. Mac Jones is in his 3rd season now. He's a little bit more seasoned as a quarterback. And I think having Bill O'Brien back as the offensive coordinator is going to be a big deal for this team. And Gesicki is that big target who can get downfield and plays primarily out of the slot. They've got Hunter Henry, who plays more in line traditionally. He's got better hands than Hunter Henry. Jason, am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy. I do think it makes sense. Hunter Henry's been disappointing. The only thing that gives me pause is this is exactly what we were saying when they went out and signed Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, that they were bringing back the 2 tight ends and it was going to break the NFL again. And then it didn't happen. But Mike Gesicki is better than Hunter Henry. He's better than Jonnu Smith, and they would be stupid not to give him the ball. So, I mean, I'm in on it. I do think it makes sense. I do.
Well, I really, if you look at last season in Miami, of course he had a down year. They have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. What did you think was going to happen? And then Tua wasn't healthy, and they had Skylar Thompson and Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback at points. So I think that this is a return to significance for Gesicki at tight end. And look, dude, let's be honest. The bar at tight end in fantasy is so freaking low. Like, we're talking about guys like Juwan Johnson being a top 10 tight end this season. It's insane. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm probably going to get burned again because I was like you. I was high on Jonnu Smith. Yeah. Now I'm not high on Jonnu Smith at all. And watch, he's going to blow up in Atlanta. But I think this is Gesicki's year, man. I really, really do. I think it's Gesicki's year.
I hope so. I'm stuck with him in one of my leagues. So I would love that to happen. I got to ask while we're on the tight end subject, because why not? Why not? How do you feel about Irv Smith?
I don't know, honestly. Yeah. All of a sudden, we're seeing these mocks with Dalton Kincaid or Mike Mayer going to Cincinnati. Yeah. If that happens, you can kind of forget about Irv Smith. I think there's a potential, though, in this offense. I mean, we know he's got talent, and now he's got a much better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. So who knows? And again, because this tight end bar is so freaking low, I could absolutely see him being a tight end 1-tier player in 2023, as long as they don't draft one of those 2 or 3 rookies.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
All right, so now we've got a trade question, Jason. Okay. This is your bread and butter here. Which side do you want? Do you want Jonathan Taylor in a 2023 second, or do you want the J.K. Dobbins side with a 2024 first?
Give me Jonathan Taylor in the 2023 second.
I'm with you. I love J.K. Dobbins, but now that they're going to this more air raid style offense, I don't know that he's going to see enough volume to be an RB1. Whereas Jonathan Taylor, we know what we're going to get. As long as he's healthy, the guy just produces. He produces fantasy points. He scores touchdowns. And the 2023 second, I mean, that could turn into a Mike Mayer, a Dalton Kincaid, Israel Abanikanda, one of those players who could be an instant impact for your team. Now, if you get this 2023 second, who are you targeting in the draft?
Well, I guess I did just scratch the running back itch with getting Jonathan Taylor in that trade. So I think I might be going after one of those tight ends you named, even in just non-tight end premium leagues. I'd like a Kincaid or a Mayer.
What about Zach Kuntz?
That's going to have to be a landing spot dependent guy for me.
Fair enough. Even though he's 6'7" and had like the most ridiculous tight end metrics we've ever seen, he broke Jelani Woods records from last season. So,
yeah,
I mean, I kind of want the tight end who runs a 4.40, 6 foot.
No, I don't blame you. It's just, I mean, it just, for me, especially with the tight end position, I've got to see what offense they're on. I've got to.
Sure. Well, and since we're talking about rookies, Jason, let's go. And this is our final question here. What incoming rookie is the biggest sleeper candidate for you in fantasy?
Okay. I hope this is okay. I'm going to answer this question with a few players, but on Wake and Take, we do a rookie of the day on Instagram, Facebook. Follow it at 1 p.m. Eastern. We post a rookie of the day. And all this week, I've been posting running backs since Sunday. I just keep finding them in the rankings. And guys like Sean Tucker, Evan Hull, Chase Brown, and Deuce Vaughn. Those 4 guys have insane profiles and will have very late draft capital, which means you're going to be able to get them late in drafts. And if any one of those guys ends up on a good offense, even as a handcuff, I'm going to take a chance on them because injuries happen so often to the running back position. And with that kind of profile, I mean, sky's the limit. So any of those running backs seem really interesting to me.
All right. So obviously one of mine is Zach Kuntz. So I think the kid's just going to light the world on fire. But then my wide receiver sleeper is Trey Palmer out of Nebraska.
I love that.
I got him with the last pick in a rookie mock in the 4th round, like a week and a half ago, which is crazy to me. He didn't test well, and that's fair. His 3-cone was crap. His agility scores aren't phenomenal, but he doesn't have to be that type of receiver. We're not looking for him to break the mold, light the world on fire here. He's the kind of guy who can fit in instantly as a wide receiver 2 in an offense. And this is going to be landing spot dependent, of course. A lot of these guys are outside of Bijan Robinson and probably Jackson Smith and Jigba. I can see a world where he's a back end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 as rookie season. And if he does that, he's a guy who could be a wide receiver 2 perennially for the next 4 to 5 seasons.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, a guy with that kind of speed and alpha production in college at Nebraska. I mean, it makes sense. You get him a good coach on a good offense. And I mean, hey.
Well, and that's one of the things for me too, is his coach at Nebraska was Scott Frost. And that program was terrible, had one of the worst passing attacks in college football. I don't know that he was coached up properly for the combine. I think that could have been part of his problem. So we'll have to see how this all pans out. Jason, it has been so great having you on this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, make sure that you are following all of us profilers on Twitter. Oh, this is early in the morning for this Midwest boy here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel so you're not missing any of our fire content. We've got a ton more coming tonight, including Jason on Trade Gods here at 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune in. And folks, we'll see you next week.
Hey, you like that video? Be sure to subscribe and activate those alerts so you get notified as soon as new videos drop. And be sure to check out PlayerProfiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.